I often get asked by indoor players for tips, and in my opinion, the quickest way for indoor players to figure out one wall is to understand the differences between the backhand they use indoors and the backhand they use on a one-wall court. Most of the time, I'll see indoor players come and warm up their backhand the same way that they warm up their backhand indoors. And while that's great for warming up your body, I often see them struggling during the games to actually use their backhand the way that they warmed up. I personally think that it comes down to understanding body position as it relates to the backhand and momentum. Let's cut to the chase with the drill, and I'll explain my thinking further on in this video. Notice how I start the drill. Side to side, I shuffle my feet to the side as I strike the ball. Next, you want to be conscious where on the wall the ball is actually hitting. Notice I always hit the ball a few feet up from the bottom board. The more you do this, the more you'll notice you'll be able to control where the ball actually bounces. Understanding this is key because the game is primarily played in the front court. Typically, the team that controls the front court controls the game. I'll note now that this is mostly doubles specific because that's where indoor players will struggle the most with their backhand. And I'll add, one wall is mostly a doubles game. Alright, let's talk about positioning. Look at my body in relation to the court when I step over for my backhand. Since the game is played so close to the wall, there's very little time to adjust to the next shot, so court position in one wall is a big deal. Notice my body position when I sidestep my backhand. Notice my body in relation to center court. Another thing to notice is the natural progression of my swing when I sidestep my backhand. Notice the natural tendency for me to slice the ball and lift it. Stepping over to slice the ball offers way less control, as well as compromising my position more. Before we rework the drill, let's talk a little bit about center court. This is center court. This is about 2 feet from center court. And this is typically where the right side player will stand to receive the serve. Notice the lane. Being aware of your feet in relation to how you strike the ball is also key to understanding how you're able to cover the court, especially when there's a need to cover the front court from the back. Now let's look at the left side player. Notice the lane. Notice my feet in relation to the lane and momentum. Also notice when I step over for my backhand, I give responsibility for center court and the middle lane to my partner on the right. Let's take a look at it from another angle. Now as you watch this, keep in mind forward movement towards the wall is key. I'll note here that players are different, with different skill sets. Knowing what your body's capable of and how fast you can go towards the front wall from any given position is very important. If you have a strong backhand, then it becomes a matter of understanding when to trade power for control. Let's briefly talk about something very specific. Beach Bash has the down the line rule. This is the only time in one wall where clearing is in effect. In this situation, an indoor backhand works very well. Note that it is only in effect when you're striking from the backcourt. This rule is strictly for the straight-in, not the cross-court. Alright, let's rework the drill. This time, we'll be working the drill behind the hash mark. Just like before, we'll be concentrating on our feet. This time, we'll take into account what we know about center court and the lane. Let's begin at the long line. The focus on the rework of this drill is to try to get the ball to bounce further in the backcourt. You want to try to concentrate on developing control as well as doing it with your feet planted. This is a drill you want to work on both behind and in front of the long line. Like I mentioned before, this is just a rework of the drill from earlier in the video. The difference being the first drill was to work on position and speed, while this rework specifically addresses court positioning of the front team in a very simple way. This can be simply understood by taking into account strike points for the front team. To better explain my thinking here, let's take a look at it from a different point of view. This is center court. Now let's look at left side player position. Power players might tend to offset themselves a bit to the right. I want to mention something briefly about one wall and playing the middle. The left-hand side is often referred to as the power side. With two right-handed players, the strong player typically takes the middle with his forehand. There's a ton of reasoning for this, but that might be better suited for another video. Back to the drill. Notice my positioning. piecing together all the things we discussed earlier in reference to court positioning. One wall is all about controlling volleys. Since it's basically a straightforward game, it's primarily a game of attrition at a very high level. Don't get me wrong, there is a ton of shooting from the back. The key is understanding the consequences for certain shot selections, while understanding momentum and what you give away for some of those choices. Sidestepping a forehand or sidestepping a backhand may not produce as much power, but it does offer more in the way of control, especially for volleys. It's also a good way to maintain positioning. Let's look at the movements we first worked on with the drill. Notice it allows me to keep my body straight with the front wall while being able to see everything in front of me without turning my back. You might say to yourself, my backhand momentum will swing me forward towards the front wall. But understand the reality is the chase to the ball will pull you outside the court. Let's look at drill number 2 and what that works on. You'll notice you'll be able to offset speed with lift while better utilizing more of the backcourt. Let's look at the front player position in relation to the return. The reason this is important is because the object of the game is to control the front. And the drill, though it's very, very simple, is a way to offset that control. Let me explain. Let's take a deeper look at the strike points for the front player. If you're shooting from the back, anything but a rollout will allow for easy check re-kill. By controlling lift and where they're actually able to hit the ball, you better enable yourself to set up for a volley. Short check re-kills are a huge part of the game, so you want to avoid that. Actively thinking about high control is the key to really high level one wall. I have one basic rule for indoor players when they come play one wall. That is, middle solves the riddle. Whenever there is doubt, shoot to the middle, get your buck back to the middle, and work your shots out from the middle. Now remember, the drills in this video, though they seem very, very basic, open the door to a ton of growth in one wall, especially if you're looking to play at a very high level. Now, if you're watching this and you're a paddleball player, all those same things apply, with some key differences, of course. You can switch hands in paddleball, which better suits you to maintain position when you strike the ball. But this drill can also improve your front game while allowing you to utilize the natural lift of the backhand to lob more. And we all know that lobbing in paddleball is very important. But I made this video specifically for the indoor player. I mean, there's a host of things indoor players can be doing to play one wall at a really high level. I think this is enough for now.
Is this thing even on?